Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more buckshot testing. And today we've got a really interesting test that I've been wanting to run for quite some time now. I've had several people kind of ask about it or mention it or say, hey, why don't you try this kind of test and see what happens? So here we are. We're going to find out what the difference really is between these, at least with the shell we've got today anyway. But it should give us a very good baseline to work off of, and we'll see exactly how similar or maybe really not these combos actually are. So first off, we'll start with the shotgun that we're going to be running, that being a Mossberg 500. It currently has a regular 28-inch barrel on it with screw-in chokes. This is a screw-in regular stock flush full choke, but that's where our test is really going to start today. Because in addition to this barrel with the screw-in full choke in it, I also have these two other barrels here. We've got one with a fixed full choke, and the other is a Mossberg C-Lect choke. It's an adjustable choke that you can turn that outer collar and tighten or loosen the constriction. A lot of you guys have wanted to see the comparison between the different styles of chokes. I've got three different ones here. We've got screw-in, fixed full, and then in the center here, the Mossberg C-Lect choke, which is just Mossberg's version of the poly choke or adjustable choke system in general. Now, currently, I have all of these set up to be a full choke. Obviously, the fixed choke is a full choke. It's 695 constriction. I have the adjustable C-Lect choke set to its full setting, and I also refined it just a tiny bit, and it is sitting exactly at 695 constriction as well. So these two are the same, and our flush screw-in choke is also a full choke, but it measures a 696. So 1/1000th of an inch more open than what these two are set at. It's about as close as we can realistically get. The screw-in choke barrel is 28 inches, the C-Lect choke barrel is 28 inches, and the fixed full choke barrel is 30 inches. That's about as good as I could get with the barrels I have. May see a little velocity jump, but it shouldn't make a massive difference for pattern performance today. So 3 different barrels, 3 different choke styles, but all of them are very, very close in constriction, about as close as I can realistically get them. So we'll see what the difference is and how they actually pattern when we put them head to head, side by side. As for the shells that we're going to be shooting through them today, I brought out some of these, which are some Winchester Military Grade buckshot loads. They're a 2 3/4 inch 9 pellet load of double-aught at 1325. Even though these are technically the military grade load, it's a Winchester Super X buckshot load, just in a little bit different hull. These ones are green and they have the black oxidized sort of case head on them, if you will. And I think the primer pocket might be sealed or something like that. But what's inside the shell is the same as a Super X. And to be honest with you, I found these to actually pattern a little better, or at least a little more consistently than the Super X shells do. So I wanted something that was cheap, easy to get, you could find them pretty much everywhere, and that we know are generally good patterning shells, especially when run through full choke constrictions like we've got here. So that's why we chose these today. But it is still a basic 9 pellet 2 3/4 double-aught load. So as for our testing, I've got 3 targets set up side by side at 40 yards with the chrono as well to get our velocity. So we'll take a shot through each one of our different barrels with the different choke systems, and we'll see how they actually do when we put them head to head. We'll start with our modern screw-in full choke, then we'll go to our fixed full choke, and then we'll go to our adjustable C-Lect choke barrel, and we'll see how they do. I have some templates we can lay up over the targets as well to actually get a reference on how it performed in some real life scenarios. So let's get you guys to view that target. We'll start taking some shots, and we'll get a good idea, at least for a starting point, as to how these chokes perform differently from another, or if all of them are pretty much identical in performance. Okay, so quick run through for our velocities out of those shells before we look at our targets. We have a claim of 1325 for these shells. We were definitely right there at what we should be seeing. First up was our screw-in full choke. That shot gave us 1318. Next up was our fixed full choke. That barrel is a 30-inch barrel, so 2 inches longer than our other 2 barrels. That shot gave us 1288, so a little bit lower velocity. Maybe at 30 inches, we're starting to kind of get diminishing returns for velocities out of our longer barrel, but still well within the ballpark of reasonable. And finally, for our C-Lect choke, that's also back to a 28-inch barrel now. That one gave us 1325 on the dot. So we're seeing right there 1300s or so, right where we should be. So looking good for velocity, but let's go check out our targets and see what the difference in pattern performance is. All right, so now we're down here with our 3 side-by-side targets at 40 yards. We'll get up close looks at them here in just a second, but on the left, we have our screw-in full choke. In the middle, we have our fixed full choke, and on the right, we have our select choke that is also set to the same exact constriction as our other two, and we definitely see some very interesting results here. There's one clear winner, and the other two are pretty similar as far as characteristics go. But first, we'll start over here with our screw-in full choke. This is a 696 constriction, technically a thousandth of an inch more open than our other two chokes, but about as close as you could realistically get between our setups today anyway. This is obviously the clear winner between these three combos. Is this a super scientific test that we did? Not really. These are 3 shots, 1 shot through each barrel with 1 load. We can obviously do more testing with this as well in the future. But to start with, we've got a really nice condensed area of shot down here at 40. This is a very solid buckshot pattern. We've got all 9 pellets right through there, kind of right where we want them to be. The white dot was the point of aim, so spread might have favored a little high with a couple little stragglers off to the left, but still everything is nice and condensed. I did measure the farthest 2 points across are the farthest left pellet over across to that farthest right pellet. That gave us 14.5 inches of total spread. Typically, anything under 20 inches is a nice performing buckshot pattern at 40 yards. Anything under 15, and you're really looking at a nice combination. So that screw-in choke did very well. These loads are not copper plated, and they don't have a full-length wad to them. They're just buffered with a little gas seal base wad sitting under them. So that is a very nice performance for the screw-in full choke. Now moving over to the right, this is now our fixed full choke barrel, and we definitely see an immediate difference here. We still have all 9 pellets on the target, but it's much more of a vertical string. It's still not a bad pattern as far as the overall size of it. It's just not nearly as pretty looking. I did measure our farthest 2 points across are from the very bottom center pellet to this very top center pellet. That gave us 17.75 inches. So we're still under the 20-inch mark there for overall size. So looking good there, but just not a very even spread. Little stringy, little splotchy. Definitely not nearly as good as what the screw-in gave us. And if I was choosing these combos to hunt with or something, still the screw-in full is the best performing option that we've got in this test so far. And now finally, we'll move over to our select choke. This one was set up right at 695, right at the full choke mark, just like our other chokes. And we see a pretty similar kind of vertical, splotchy, stringy pattern like we did with the fixed full choke barrel. This time we only have 8 pellets on the target. I believe our 9th pellet hit a little low down there because there was some dirt kicked up on the bottom of the paper there when I came down. So it definitely is probably our worst pattern today as far as overall size goes. But it is still usable enough to do the job, although it's clearly not the winner. Of the 8 pellets we have on paper here, from the bottom left pellet to this top pellet up here is 22 inches worth of spread, but we would obviously have probably 5 or 6 more inches at least to the pellet that hit low below the paper. So it may be a little closer to the high 20s or 30-inch spread. So out of them all, this may be our least desirable combination. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. A lot of people did not like these select chokes or poly chokes or adjustable chokes in general. We found some much better performances in it than what this gave us for sure. But when backing up and comparing the 3 again here, I think the obvious winner is the screw-in full over there on the left. No doubt about it. That's the best pattern. It's the tightest. It's the most even. It's the best looking, prettiest looking. If I was choosing between these combos today, that's the one I would go with. It's the most modern design. So, I mean, makes sense. We increased our pattern performance capability with a little newer technology. Again, this is obviously one test, not very scientific. I think we should probably revisit this with some copper plated loads, maybe even some flight control loads, depending on what you guys want to see. We've definitely got options there, but let's throw a couple quick templates up just to get an idea on how these actually look if you were to use each one of these in a real life scenario. And if you guys were curious what the noise is in the background, it's the cattle audience that has decided to show up. But let's throw a few templates up and see how these 3 actually performed. So first up, we'll start with a deer template. We've got his front leg down at the bottom. His neck is just starting to the right. We've got all 9 pellets right through the chest cavity, right where you'd want them to be at. So our screw-in full choke is a very nice performing combination. I wouldn't hesitate to hunt deer with that any day of the week for sure. And now moving the deer template to our fixed full choke barrel. Still good enough to take deer with it out to 40 yards or so, but definitely a less desirable pattern. Vertical stringiness, not really what you want in a deer hunting combination, or at least not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's still definitely good enough to do the job anyway, but nowhere near what the screw-in choke was. And now finally, this is our select choke. And honestly, that might look even a little better than what the fixed full choke did for a deer hunting situation anyway. Might be a little more broader of an entire spread, but maybe the center portion of that pattern is a little bit less vertical string than what we saw with the fixed full. Still certainly good enough to do the job out to 40 yards or so on a deer hunt, but still nowhere near what the screw-in choke did. So when it comes to deer hunting scenarios, maybe the select choke did a little better here today than what the fixed choke gave us. So pretty interesting to see there. And now we have our coyote template. This is a new template this year. A lot of people wanted to see it, so here we are. This is very close to life-size, about as realistic as you can get with an art-drawn template anyway, except we're missing a little bit of leg length at the bottom. But absolutely predator capable out to 40 yards all day long, no question about it. Would have covered him in pellets with this screw-in full choke, so looking good there. And now over to our fixed full choke pattern. Still dead coyote at 40 yards, but definitely a little less pretty. Maybe a few less pellets where you want them to be, but it still would have gotten the job done for sure. And finally, for our select choke, we're definitely still not as good as what the screw-in choke gave us, but it would have still gotten the job done most likely. Although you can see a little more broad spread, you're starting to kind of reach the limits where you're going to have to get lucky with a couple pellets where they need to be. So still, screw-in choke is the winner, even when it comes to predator stuff as well. And one last quick reference point for those of you that may have hopped in this video and not be hunters, but are familiar with actual torso templates. Here you go. This is a regulation 18 by 30 torso cutout, even though this is probably not the best idea in a defensive situation necessarily out at 40 yards. This will give those guys a reference point to work off of if they may not have a direct reference on something that's animal sized out here at 40. So still perfectly capable of two-legged creatures as well, if you wanted that reference instead. And here is one of those little base wad gas seal pieces that sits under the pellets. They don't have an actual shot cut portion of a wad. It's just unplated lead pellets with a little bit of buffer material around them. You can see the small little golf ball dimples and stuff there. That's the buffer with the 3 actual buckshot pellets. Nothing fancy or special or out of the ordinary to see here, but that's what is loaded under the pellets in the shell. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about this test right here? Very interesting to see the difference between what the 3 different styles of chokes can do. We've got a clear winner here with this screw in, and it really gave us a nice performance. That's 40 yards. You're looking at sub 15 inches with a regular, basic, cheap old double aught buck that doesn't have any kind of special wad. It's not plated, nothing like that. It's just your regular Winchester Military Grade buckshot. Pretty much the same thing as the Super X in a slightly different hull. But this is why I like these military grade buck a little bit better. They just seem to pattern a little nicer through your average, hunting sort of combinations like this. Obviously, it wouldn't matter which of these options you ran if you were at 5 or 10 yards for home defense scenarios or something like that. Any of them would do the job perfectly fine, but pushing the range a little farther, opening the patterns up to actual hunting distances, the screw-in is the obvious choice. That's the most modern technology, and did we actually improve chokes with that system? Quite possibly so. At least definitely noticeable with these particular shells, this test we did today anyway. Now we gotta maybe revisit this with some copper plated stuff, maybe some flight control stuff, whatever you guys might want to see. We've got options we can try and see if this trend continues. We've definitely seen better performances out of these 2 other combos over here with other buckshot loads that might be a little higher quality than what these are, if you will. But for a baseline, I think this is pretty indicative of the performance difference. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever run a test like this, comparing screw in to a fixed choke or a select choke? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Out of these three combos, which one would you prefer to take? Whether it's just which one would you rather own, which one would you rather use, which one would you rather hunt with? And like we just said, what other testing do you guys want to see us do like this? Other shells through those three different barrels or any combination of other stuff? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see you all in the next one.